Yeah, it is. But it's in the big cities, and so you know it's around, but you just kind of hope it's not.
I'm not into that stuff. Never have and never will be. And I hope this guy will never be into it.
Wisconsin Governor Tommy Thompson as his running mate.
Well, you know, they talked about there's going to be possible a Midwestern governor. That could be Governor Thompson, could be Governor John Engler, maybe somebody from...
What can you tell us?
Well, the president, you know, has sent us 9 budgets in the last 13 months, and none of them really balance except for the last 2, but that's smoke and mirrors in the way he puts those together to reach a balance.
What we call a zane, a filter cake. As you might recall, it is an increase in truck traffic that they've been used to all winter long. Right now they're probably looking at the maximum between 10 and 20 trucks a day, so we're more than doubling the number of trucks that will be going in and out.
Is there going to be any restriction on what can be that area can be?
So there aren't any restrictions associated with this.
In the Opus vote sent a clear message of no to mall sprawl, and we're going to be holding them to those promises, and Bill will be giving us. The second event was when U.S. West announced the creation of 120 Opus bonds. Yesterday, we saw the decisive rejection of the Opus strip mall project. The rejection of the Opus strip mall project sent a clarion call that Duluth must grow and develop by building upon its strengths, by investing in our downtown and in our neighborhoods, by preserving our green spaces, by redeveloping our old commercial and industrial sites, and by creating high-wage jobs.
Last year will go down as the bloodiest year in Minnesota history. Minnesota set a staggering record for murder and violent crime, much of it committed by people just out of prison.
It's a sad comment on the times that everybody's hurting each other, doing things to each other. I don't understand it. Why can't we just get along?
And in Wisconsin, many lawmakers looking at growing crime say we're not getting our money's worth. A survey shows Wisconsin is among the highest spending states for corrections in the nation, ranking in the top 10. Each year, as Wisconsin families struggle to make ends meet, each household must first dish out $260 for their share of state prison costs. And that doesn't even include the extra tax money for county jails and for federal prison costs. And as the crime rate escalates, citizens are questioning whether we're getting what we pay for. Lawmakers in both Minnesota and Wisconsin are demanding a get tougher approach.
The predators, the child molesters, the rapists, the murderers, those people should be locked up and maybe never should get out.
But longer sentences cost even more money. Some lawmakers say the answer lies in cutting prisoner perks. Some even liken prisons to country clubs. A tour of Lino Lakes Prison, just north of the Twin Cities, shows spacious grounds with plenty of recreational facilities. The well-groomed courtyard, surrounded by apartment-style housing, appeared more like a park than a prison. We also admired the lounge areas and the college dorm-like rooms, to which each inmate has his own key. But we still heard plenty of griping.
I know you look at it and you think, you know, nice blinds, nice bed, color TV and everything. It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
It's comments like these that make some lawmakers angry.
Certainly people in institutions should not be given benefits that people outside of institutions who abide by the law and pay taxes don't get.
But we can't make it so plush that people are better off in a correctional facility than law-abiding citizens on the outside who have been offended.
But how should prisoners be treated? A debate is raging over whether prisons should be used to rehabilitate inmates or punish them? We'll examine that tomorrow. Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News. Color TVs and college dorm-like cells have people up in arms about prison perks. But many prison psychologists say the harder the time, the more chance inmates will continue to break the law. Some say today's prisons are setting up society for an overwhelming crime wave.
Our current system is designed to create angry, frustrated men. And if that's our goal, we are achieving it by the kinds of prisons and what we're doing inside the prison system.
We're perpetuating crime.
Yeah, they're training schools for crime and for anger and hostility.
This prisoner, who asked not to be identified, spent several years in Stillwater State Prison. He says prison is hell, no matter what perks inmates get.
Stillwater, you have to fight for your life. You know, you got to look over your shoulder all the time.
And this prisoner, who is serving time at Shakopee for killing her boyfriend as he was beating her, said she'd rather be dead than in prison.
I wouldn't go through this again if I would have known that I would have ended up in prison and that I was going to go through all this mental anguish that I have. I wouldn't have fought back.
Almost 3/4 of all people who have done hard time will reoffend. But is it because prisons are bad or good? Does an easy life in prison draw criminals back? This inmate thinks that's a possibility.
Potential's there.
For what?
To recommit. It's easier life to go back to prison, probably. At least you're somewhat accepted in the penitentiary.
Wisconsin Governor Tommy Thompson wants to make sure prisoners know they're being punished.
I want them to know it's not nice to be in prison.
This workshop at Columbia Maximum Security Prison in Portage, Wisconsin is the start of Governor Thompson's vision.
I would like to see every one of our prisons a profit center.
He's pushing for private enterprise to contract with prisons as manufacturing centers and pay the prisoners the prevailing wage. Every inmate would have to work, even if they're also taking classes. The inmates would then have to turn 80% of their income over to the prison for room and board.
I think they should be paying their own way.
Governor Thompson also supports Wisconsin's newly approved prison chain gangs. They wouldn't be like the more familiar Alabama gangs where prisoners are chained together and guards stand over them with shotguns. The Wisconsin plan has prisoners wearing stun belts as they work on outdoor projects. If an inmate makes a break for it, a guard activates his control to administer a significant jolt, which drops the prisoner. Wisconsin prisons have already eliminated free weights and restricted use of weight machines. Other lawmakers in both Minnesota and Wisconsin are pushing for further restrictions on prisoner perks, including and reducing educational loans and grants. But restrictions like these frighten corrections officials who fear they might result in a loss of inmate control. And without adequate control measures, they say we could end up with more fights, more riots, and more trouble than we can handle. Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News. This man is making international waves with his theories on how prisoners should be treated. If inmates are happy in Phoenix's Maricopa County Jail, Sheriff Joseph Arpaio says they'll want to come back.
Jail should be punishment. You should never live better in jail than you do on the outside.
And Sheriff Arpaio means it. Instead of hot lunch, he serves cold sandwiches. And if the bread is moldy, too bad. He's brought the cost of jail food. Sheriff Arpaio believes he saves $100,000 a year by cutting out coffee alone.
They have no coffee. I give them bologna sandwiches for lunch. It may be green, but so what?
Here in Wisconsin's most modern prison, there is a night and day difference from how Sheriff Arpaio treats his prisoners. This is Columbia Maximum Security Penitentiary. From murderers to rapists, some of Wisconsin's most dangerous felons are housed here. Yet there is a prevailing attitude that inmates must be treated with respect.
Correctional institutions typically treat inmates with respect and in a humane fashion so that they can learn skills that are needed for out in society. And
prison officials use perks like library and recreation time as security control measures. If inmates act up, they lose those privileges.
The major problem facing crowded prisons in our country is inmate idleness. And any kind of activity of a meaningful nature deals with that idleness issue.
Sheriff Arpaio solves that problem by putting his inmates on chain gangs.
While statewide polls show Sheriff Arpaio is the most popular elected official in Arizona, many in the field of corrections say his theories don't work. They cite Texas as an example.
Texas has the cheapest, most frill is exactly what Minnesota's Commissioner of Corrections worries about as the state looks at cutting costs.
And are we going to put them in a prison warehouse and then expect them to come out and rejoin the law-abiding community when they can't compete for employment, they can't compete with a marketable job skill? I think not.
Corrections experts in both Minnesota and Wisconsin feel education is one of the best investments for the future. Federal Bureau of Prison Statistics show 97% of inmates who get college degrees in prison don't reoffend.
If the inmate coming out of prison is going to be your next-door neighbor, what is it that you want? Do you want your next-door neighbor to come out uneducated and have no skills to obtain a job?
Public outcry over free education for people in prison caused the federal government to eliminate prisoner grants last year, but there are still many low-cost educational loan programs available to inmates. Cheap education and other perks are causing the public to ask if corrections officials are taking it too far. Minnesota's planned new 800-bed maximum security prison will cost taxpayers $89 million. Many lawmakers are questioning the need for some of its features, including 12 in-house barbershops, tile showers, 2 gymnasiums, sod instead of seating, and intercoms in every cell. Arizona's sheriff calls such things unnecessary luxuries.
Some of these federal, state prisons, country clubs, they live better in jail than they do on the outside, not at my jail.
The debate over prison reform continues to rage in Minnesota and Wisconsin, but not in Phoenix, Arizona. Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
I'm running this year.
Simpson, and everybody knows nationwide that that verdict was received with varying degrees of unhappiness or cheer. I represent a man who's of Mexican descent, who is a minority, you never know what goes through the minds of the grand jurors afterwards. They saying, well, somebody got away with something, we believed he was guilty, and this guy isn't going to get away, even though the evidence there we don't believe was even sufficient to indict anybody. That kind of a situation creates some real prejudice in the minds of the grand jury.
Whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or a member of another party, you have to agree that a political convention is a colorful spectacle. Last night's opening ceremonies for the Minnesota Republican Convention were no exception. This is the first time in years the GOP has held their convention in the Twin Ports.
It is so beautiful here on the lakeshore, a little cold, mind you, but it's just a nice place to have a convention. We are really thrilled to be here.
The party won't begin hammering its platform together until later today, so last night's ceremonies concentrated more on the fun side of the political process. At the convention, you could find blimps bombing delegates with free hats and Uncle Sam entertaining the crowd at the piano. Of course, there was plenty of patriotic music. Last night's jovial atmosphere may not last too much longer, however. Roughly 5 months of tough battles still lie ahead as the Democrats and Republicans grind towards Election Day. At the deck in Duluth, Dave Anderson, Channel 6 News.
Delegates to the Minnesota Republican Convention were up late last night, but failed to endorse a candidate for the U.S. Senate seat held by Paul Wellstone. The convention didn't recess until 3:30 this morning, which surprised many party members.
In an endorsement, we always have healthy competition. We clearly have healthy competition among a lot of strong candidates. Now we're down to Rudy Boschwitz and Burt McAfee.
Early this afternoon, Senate hopeful Rudy Boschwitz urged delegates not to endorse anyone, and eventually they took his advice. But the party's platform is also on today's agenda. Northland delegates have their own ideas about what it should contain.
I think the platform as it stands is a good guiding principle for our party. I believe in keeping the right to life plank in the platform because that's what we as a party have said, and that's what we believe in.
Get their foot in the door for control. Besides the right to life issue, there was also discussion about reforming spending, crime, education, welfare, and of course the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness.
There are a lot of supporters for having sovereignty for the people to be able to use the land, especially the people who live up in those areas.
Another 7th District delegate is in support of Rod Graham's proposal to allow local residents more say in BWCA matters.
I think the issue is local councils, not local councils of people deciding what is going on. More local rule, not the idea of federal mediators, more bureaucracy. Let the people decide that live there.
And approving that platform was the last item on the agenda for some bleary-eyed state delegates. Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
What I hope to go out there and do is go out, look at the wreckage, document it. I'll take some photographs. We want to make sure we get the accurate position of the wreckage, where all the pieces came down, so that we can reconstruct what happened to the aircraft.
And this contest for the United States Senate should be about the future of our children. I got McAfee children right here with me. We got plenty of the young generation here. That's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about personal redemption for past failures. This election should be a referendum on ideas for the future, the 21st century, not about the past. Whether the past is the 60s of Paul Wellstone's approach or the past of Rudy Boschwitz's 1980s approach. The Republican message for the 21st century is one of optimism, opportunity, and excitement about what the future holds for our country and our
to return to St. Paul someone, no matter how well he is liked, who has pleaded guilty to a criminal gross misdemeanor charge,
Well, I don't care because this is not Becky Lowry that we've always known. I mean, she's running a campaign that's really tough, really for when the same thing. I think it would be better that, and more fair to the people, that if we simply talked about the issues, what she can do as a freshman senator more than I can do as a veteran of 26 years.
June 10th for disposition.
Thank you. Judge, I would note for the people's office, they've indicated in my conversation.
Early winters in the Northland.
And there are a number of chapter members who believe that there will be another severe winter in the next 5 to 6 winters, and another severe winter will really do a lot of harm to the resource and to the deer herd. So we're going to be looking at that. In fact, meteorologists have noted a change in the weather patterns. So from a scientific standpoint, there certainly is another possibility of a
The Superior Police Department has decided that its pedestrian safety problem centers around the motorist's failure to yield to the pedestrian plus the excessive speed of the traffic. The dog stopped and he's frantic that he's going to get run over because he's not used to the car stopping for him, but this comes Thank you, officer. That's it. Thank you. Okay. There are very few of these around. We can set something up here just for a shot.
You're going to be starting the program today. Starting
Well,
now would be good.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think.
Bert Mackesy didn't win the endorsement of the Minnesota Republican Party at their recent convention, but that hasn't slowed him down at all. In fact, it seems to have inspired him to work all the harder. Mackesy was in Ely last night to lay his views on the BWCA on the table for concerned citizens to see.
Well, I'm supportive of the Grahams and Oberstar bills. The areas that I think need particular attention are the mechanized portages. I think that provision has to be changed. I think the management councils have to be introduced so there's a formalized input mechanism and a device whereby the conflicts that I heard up in this meeting can be resolved.
Bert Mackesy's views on local control of the Boundary Waters is a message many people in this Northland community want to hear. But in this DFL stronghold, will his message get across?
Well, I think sometimes, Dave, that issues transcend party politics, and I think that the Boundary Waters issue is one of those issues. After listening to these people at my town meeting here for an hour, I think many of them are aggrieved by their government. I think they have a good story to tell, and I don't think they're going to be looking on one's forehead for Republican or Democrat. I think they are going to vote for the person that they think will best represent their interests on this particular issue.
Mackesy is facing an uphill battle in his quest to be Minnesota's next senator. He has to beat a tough challenge from former Senator Rudy Boschwitz before he can even think about tackling incumbent Senator Paul Wellstone. In Ely, Dave Anderson, Channel 6 News.
Police say just before 8 o'clock last night, this liquor store was robbed by 4 Native American suspects. One had a gun. After the robbery, the suspects fled the scene in a stolen car, but police weren't far behind. During a high-speed chase, the suspects crashed on Skyline Boulevard. They left the car and fled on foot.
Well, we know that one handgun was used in the robbery. However, one handgun was recovered from the first vehicle.
Once on foot, the suspects forced their way into a home near Smithville. They took car keys from a person in the area and once again fled the scene in a stolen car. Police pursued the stolen car at speeds up to 90 miles per hour, but the suspects crashed again. This time, they ran into the woods near Boy Scout Landing.
We're in the process of looking for some armed robbery suspects. We believe that we have them sealed off in a wooded area here.
Around 9 o'clock, the search team had grown from a few officers to at least 10 agencies. As officers stood by on the ground, a heat sensor helicopter scanned the woods from the sky. As the search continued later into the night, residents in the area were told to turn around because roads were closed off. Around 11 o'clock, a 23-year-old female suspect was discovered at a residence. She was later taken to a hospital.
We're going to continue to search as long as we think that there's a possibility that we may be able to make an apprehension. And that could be for another 15 minutes, it could be all night.
For a fact, because I've worked on every campaign since 1980. And then, from that, if you decide... You know, in the last process, if all they do, my gosh, if all they do is send us to Washington and don't provide the support and don't provide the feedback and don't provide that patience, we're in trouble. We are in trouble as a country.
And send out notices too.
One, just fax that to me, and secondly,
attention noted to this. I mean, more people can attend. You guys keep a limit of how much experience?
Not didactic. Didactic meaning it's not going to be teaching. My process is more Socratic, meaning I ask a lot of questions, some very direct and sometimes painful.
I'm surprised my glassware hasn't gone.
Why?
For 50 cents a glass?
For the past 15 years, Charlene Shimon has been trying to sell everything from her glasses to her husband's favorite waffle iron. She's an original Park Point rummage sailor and says she can't wait for sale time every year. She's a diehard.
We are. We love it. We start planning way in advance, and we absolutely love it. We're planning this in the winter. Our Park Point Community Club Committee got together, and we work practically all year round making plans for a successful sale.
They used to be called beauty contests, but don't let that misnomer fool you. The modern pageant relies more on intelligence and talent. 4 young women, Devin Lind, Stacy Swanson, Kelly Lafreniere, and Elizabeth Borgeson were in the running for the coveted crown of Miss Babbitt. The pageant was a friendly rivalry for the women, but all pitched in behind the scenes to make the show a success.
We had a really rough practice last night. Well, actually, after practice last night, I didn't think it was going to do it. Everything turned out really well tonight.
The competition stayed close through the evening and ended with a question that was formulated by the judges. The question asked the contestants who the major influence on their lives has been. When the dust had settled, 18-year-old Sarah Borgeson was named the winner, and she assumed the crown from Janelle Smith, last year's winner. Sarah already has big plans for her reign.
I think I'm going to get the teenagers more involved in this community and the younger kids together so that we can keep this community what it is and make it better.
In Babbitt, Dave Anderson, Channel 6 News.
Boards include boards enforcing drug enforcement and prevention, child protection.
Part of the community of Superior, and we've done.
I'm very confident he's going to be a tremendous asset to our community.
There you go. Mark? Keith? Yeah. Oh, I was kind of helping him out.
I was asked to make an introduction here.
Oh.
Dick Collier.
Dick. How are you? Mark Diamond.
He works with Gold.
The department went through a federal grand jury investigation before my coming. There was some problems on the city side with some city officials and criminal charges and activity. As a result of the federal investigation, the department was asked to review some things, which we did. And
The average acres burned to date is 533,000 acres. So far this year we've had over 1.8 million acres burned, and I think that really points out the situation.
Years ago, the last glacier retreated from the North American continent, but every fall it stages a comeback. And this year it lasted, well, until May, when we had 36 inches of ice still on the border lakes in my district, with temperatures driven down to 60 below zero.
Gentleman from Minnesota.
This money goes to real people. People who are old and poor and hurt in the cold weather of northern Minnesota. If you think that's fun, try living up there on $600 a month in a poorly insulated house when you've got to choose between eating or heating.
Speaker, I will never forget running into a woman in Stevens Point in my district. She's about 90 years old. The only thing that kept her going was the fact that she was living in a home that was built by her, for her by her husband as a wedding present when she was 22 years old.
Yeah, it's very important. This is kind of our kickoff to summer. Hard to tell from the weather, but this is our kickoff to summer. This is when the people start coming into town and start getting used to coming back up to Duluth and that kind of thing. So we look forward to this weekend every year.
Okay, put your arms out. We're flying. Here we go. I traveled over land and sea. I met a bear and old was he. I said to him, where do you live? And this is what she told me. And what was that? Now clap your hands. Come with me to clapping land. Yeah, clapping land. That's right, clapping land. To clapping land, and you can live in clapping land. Okay, now put your arms out again. We're still flying. That's right, Panda. stamp your feet. Sure. Come with me to Stamping Land. Stamping Land. Stamping Land. Come with me to Stamping Land. If you can live in Stamping Land. Now put your arms out again. We're going to fly to the next island. I traveled over land and sea. I met a bear called Panda 3. I said to him, where do you live?
We are just happy to be here in Duluth at Spirit Mountain, and this is going to be the largest state rally that Minnesota has had so far. This is the 7th annual, and we know right now that it's going to be larger than any of the previous ones that have been held down south.
So you guys have a lot of stuff going on.
A bomb of the size and explosive force of this one that created a 35-foot by 80-foot crater is one against which no one can totally protect. But the terrorists cannot go unpunished, and the President has taken the right action to send FBI agents to Saudi Arabia to alert our intelligence forces to combine with those of the Saudis and track down those who perpetrated the action and bring them to justice.
All buttoned up and ready to go again. Smack it. Smack it. There you go.
Woo, good job! Way to do it! He's just crazy about it, and he showed interest in it, and we didn't think we'd game started that early, but we talked to a couple people, and they said, yeah, we could do it. And...
For a 3-year-old kid, he's got the focus of a 4-year-old. Well, he's serious. He's one of these guys that can turn into a very good hockey player. Today, it's a position focus.
Okay, Jordan, start skating back up.
Because that's one of the keys of hockey,
This way, Bob!
is to know your position and play that instinctively.
Turn around, look, get your stick down. Here it comes, go get it.
Go to the net. Watch the ball, see what happens.
Turn around, Joe.
He's not that aggressive yet, like the older boys. He's probably a little intimidated by him.
Dig it out, baby. Come on, dig it out. Dig it out.
Oh, darn it, got away from him.
I was tasting it.
Let's get some water.
I'm not thirsty anymore.
Your job is on defense is to be in front of the goal and protect it. Okay, take off, Jordan, go. Go to the net.
He's got so many pads on. I don't think you could hurt him. Get up, Jordan! Get up!
He falls a lot because he hustles so hard.
Good job, Jordan! People come by and they all point at him and they all like to watch him and back that way! I get to say, yeah, that's my little boy.
We do believe that this ship is designed to destroy the planet and to kill people, and therefore welcoming it into our harbor with open arms is a celebration of the destruction of life.
These children and their families may have to find another place to swim. Threatening coliform levels in Pike Lake have many concerned about their businesses and the safety of the public.
Well, the last month, we had 400 to 600 in the water every day, and the coliform count never got above 88. However, this last 2 weeks, when the high water came and flushed them septic systems out, it went to 460.
This issue is nothing new to Pike Lake Beach. Just 2 years ago, it closed down because the coliform level reached 1,400 per sample. The coliform counts have to be over 200 for 5 consecutive samples before the beach is closed down. Since the 460 count, the department has taken another sample, which resulted at only 25. Even though Burke says the source of it all is from the septic tanks, county officials disagree.
It really isn't, at this point, showing any indication that there's a failing septic system that would be polluting that particular part of the beach. In fact, the Auto Club does have a system, and theirs would not be going into the lake.
County officials say this type of contamination is caused by people using the beach and birds' excretions, but Pike Lake officials say more investigation is needed.
They need to take account at the source over there, where it's dumped into the creek.
In Duluth, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
On a normal day, the job of the drag line they call the Prairie Rose is to remove the first 90 feet of overburden to prepare a mine for coal extraction. But all this week and part of next, the drag line is on an expedition from one section of the Falkirk mine to another. The Prairie Rose is moving across the prairie literally at a snail's pace. From point A to B is 6 miles. It'll take about 7 days at 1/10 of a mile an hour.
Yeah, moving 13.5 million pounds of steel across the prairie is a slow process. It has required lots of planning and, of course, the permission of numerous agencies.
8 months of planning by local, state, and federal agencies, to be exact. Along its path, the drag line must go through 3 major power lines, some of which will be temporarily buried in the ground, others disconnected and moved. And for short periods of time, traffic will be stopped at 3 or 4 different places along the way. The action of moving involves the drag line's feet picking up the body to move it forward, as a person would use their arms to move back into a chair. And a water truck precedes every step.
The water in front of the drag line helps lubricate the step. As the machine is picked up by the tub hooks in the back, the tub is slid along. And anything we can do to decrease the friction between the bottom of the tub and the ground makes the process go a lot easier and smoother.
And the feet on the Prairie Rose are 16 feet wide by 80 feet long. Therefore, this 13.5 million pound machine leaves quite an impression in its path. Michael Lindblom for NBC News.
I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here, but I just won't be putting this on anymore. This is the last time you'll see Kirby Puckett in a Minnesota Twins uniform.
scorekeepers and secretary. Johnny DeBlanc to the announcer's stand, of course, Cindy and Betty.
Some people call them thrill seekers.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on tight. There you are.
Others just call them downright crazy or really brave. These are the men and women of rodeo, and they say they're always up to the challenge.
It's just a rush. You got all them people screaming at you, yelling, cheering for you, and just riding the bull. It's just wild.
Some of the rodeo events included calf roping, the barrel race, and bull riding. Some people say all it takes to be a real rodeo guy or gal is just wearing a cowboy hat and some boots. But some competitors here say it takes much more.
So it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of work. It's almost like another full-time job. And it's highly expensive and highly competitive. So in order to be competitive, you need to be a fine-tuned machine with your horse.
Valerie says so far she and her husband have spent $350 only on entry fees, and the expense also depends on how much they compete. One rider from Arizona says he does this because it's in his blood.
I got two older brothers that rode both before I did, and I was pretty much grew up around livestock and around cattle and horses back home, back on the reservation and stuff, and it was just pretty natural for me to start, just competing rodeo.
It's a real unique experience. People keep each other up and support each other.
So now they're off to the next rodeo. In Spooner, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
I thought it was a walleye, yes. I thought it until I saw it. And I thought, boy, this is a big one.
What Milton Powell thought was a walleye turned out to be the largest northern he has ever caught.
Good Lord. And then it took off when I set the hook, and then it left. It ran out about 150 feet or 200 feet, wide open, and it jumped. Then I knew I had something big. Yeah, this is the pole I used right here. It's a St. Croix blank and a 6-pound test small reel, or 6-pound test line on it. It took me about 20 minutes to land him. And here's the net that he went through. He went right there, his head went through this hole right here. Didn't go through, he went through so far and he got hung up on his jaws.
The fish that finally fell for a worm and plain hook is not only the largest of Milton Powell's life, it may be the largest ever caught on 6-pound test. If Milton looks familiar to you, it may be because Channel 6 News ran a special profile of his fishing lifestyle last May.
Sure wish I could hook one.
That was before the Big Northern. Dick Powell, Milton's cousin and a resort owner on Sag, is used to seeing big fish, but this one was something special.
I had never seen a fish that big, and I've been here for a lot of years, and that was the biggest fish I've ever seen in this country.
Milton has kept a level head through it all and hasn't bragged too much, for a fisherman.
This is just a freak catch. I mean, it isn't something you catch every day. It's something that's you're going to have to just go by. Once you get something like that there, you don't get them every day. Once in a lifetime.
Back in 1976 was convicted of killing a juvenile female, Charmaine Lewis, and depositing her body in the Troy Pit in Brule. And this location where his final resting place was is close to that area.
So you think there's some connection there?
Well, I don't know whether it's symbolic or whether he had any plan. We'll never know that in mine. I think his own demons finally got to him.
Having to go to other commitments. But, Mr. Chairman, we are here.
25 years after the designation of transfer plan. The Interior Department says they are opposed to transferring any.
Now, that principle should have as much relevance today as it did when President Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address. If we are truly committed to restoring the principles of democracy outlined by President Lincoln, we can start by passing the Oberstar bills and defeating the Vento proposal.
And both senators voting for it at that time, Muriel Humphrey and councils. And in my judgment, those limit public participation. Now, has been one constant. Minnesotans support the Voyageurs National Park and the
This has become a morning ritual for Doug Terrell, shaving in a darkened bathroom. He does this so he doesn't scrutinize his appearance, something he used to do constantly. It started out with checking and rechecking his appearance in every mirror in his home. Doug would agonize over any small blemish on his face.
I'm saying to myself, if I can see it this close away, people surely talking to me face to face are going to be seeing it.
Doug Terrell has what is known as body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, a preoccupation with a slight or imagined defect so intense that some patients find themselves incapable of functioning normally.
And I would be like wake in the middle of the night, touching my face in the middle of the night subconsciously because I'd be thinking about it and everything. Or I'd be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and having this little mirror and looking at it and see how bad it was.
I think they look in the hope that this time it will somehow be different, that this time they'll look better than they did the last time.
The biggest demand is for the lower cost housing, affordable housing, and so we're laying out a project to make it fairly dense and smaller lots, but economically that's the market, and that's the way that we can come out the best.
But just kind of get together among yourselves and pick a canoe.
They came 60 strong, most from outside Minnesota, lugging canoes in the sweaty Washington heat to prove a point.
It's not local input, it's local control. They have the ability to veto decisions by the Secretary of the Interior or the Secretary of Agriculture, depending on the park or the wilderness.
Okay, alrighty, we'll get back to you. Thank you. Oh, is your, okay, thank you, bye.
Everybody's talking about it, you know, I mean, they know it's on the back of their mind, but I guess they're still not canceling any travel plans. They are actually calling for future.
The fire muster is an annual thing that we do every year. We try to do something a little bit different each year at the fire muster. keep the crowds coming in. We've done extrication and stuff like that. This year we decided to combine this with our level A hazmat training. We thought it would work out nice.
The legislature had tried to have a sample from the previous
And sometimes the beauty of taking a look 5 years later back at a case is that the relationships have deteriorated. The sense of loyalty maybe is no longer there in a person. There are plenty of unsolved homicides to work on. We don't want for
occur. The suspects or victim samples would be the ones in between the lanes. And generally for each
And when they set it down so that everybody in the building printed that way. Dubuque put on Iowa, and
it's in good shape. Everybody has been so friendly, so helpful, so nice. They go out of their way to say hi and to give us advice.
But not only did they do that, but they were also saying, come by for supper, our kids can play with your kids, hey, come on. And so we're actually meeting people across America because of technology and the internet. It's so exciting.
And it will give a good measure of safety if the weather gets rough or if the waves get to a point where people don't feel comfortable on the lake. They'll have a place to duck into. Even if they're not from this facility, even if they're just traveling through, which I think would be great.
So it's really, it's almost a necessary convenience.
Today, as the search of the shoreline for clues to the crash continued, and as what appeared to be a set of human remains was transferred to shore, the frustration of families who lost loved ones on Flight 800 boiled over. They're angry at New York Governor Pataki for claiming yesterday that 60 to 100 bodies had been found, when only 3, in fact, had been recovered. Michel Olivier from France.
I want my brother, you know. I don't want politics, you know.
Joe Lichner, who lost his wife and 2 daughters, demands direct updates from the search team.
We call upon the federal government, the governor's office, and everybody involved in this investigation to give us all the information that they have as soon as they get it, and do it now.
And this afternoon, investigators agreed to that, agreed to inform the families each and every time a set of human remains is brought here to the Coast Guard Command Center. I'm Steve Handelsman reporting live from the South Shore of Long Island. Back now to you.
1,000 by 3,000 foot box over what they call, quote, the richest, most
Boom.
concentrated area.
Central High School. I suppose you can take that from 2nd Street, just so you know.
That their school day is going to be lengthened. Another thing I believe they're going to see is that their class size in grades K, 1, and 2 is going to be something between 18 and 23. It shouldn't be much more than that at all.
And we're at the farm, back here in the same tornado. If I can zoom in from the farm. And we're at the farm, back here in the same tornado. If I can zoom.
The tink, 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 and then pretty soon it just started pouring the beat heck, and it was the noise got so loud that it sounded like a jet engine roaring inside there. I actually had to plug my ears. It was just deafening.
Craig Voigt drove his truck inside this tin Quonset seconds before the storm hit, and along with his horses, waited the storm out.
You couldn't see from here to those trees over there. It was raining so hard. And the wind was blowing. I must have been, 40, 50 mile an hour gust of wind that was, shooting that stuff through here.
It was scary. You knew there was going to be a lot of damage.
Almost everyone in town had to clean up today, including Gail Weisenberger.
First you hear a few pings on the roof, and all of a sudden it's just, coming continuously. About inch diameter hail is what we had right here in town. I suppose it must have hailed for 15, 20, 25 minutes.
And that's all it took to turn city streets green from all the broken trees. Gloria Rude picked up some of the hail that caused it, the worst she'd seen in some time.
Totaled, it kind of cut kitty corner, don't you think? And about 3 farmers that we've heard of were totaled out. Yeah, so it was bad.
And this is what she's talking about, 100% damage to fields like this sunflower crop. Last night's storm did the worst damage to farmers, the lifeblood of Eddy County. But some here say despite the trouble, they're thankful it was the plants and not people who were hurt. Dave Hovde, KBLY, News 11.
The Boundary Waters battle took to the airwaves. Newsnight Minnesota, a program broadcast on public television, gave a panel of 14 people from throughout the state a chance to debate Congressman Jim Oberstar and Bruce Vento live via satellite.
Why is your bill the best solution?
My bill, with regard to Voyageurs National Park, reestablishes the original purpose for which the park was intended.
The people were randomly chosen from around Minnesota to take part in this debate.
These folks up here, these 14 people are real citizens. I mean, they're not sort of shills that public television or the Star Tribune put up there. These are real human beings from around Duluth and a little bit around the state. And they're here to specifically question Vento and Oberstar on these bills. And the point of the whole exercise is, frankly, to get the media out of the middle.
The direction of the event shifted after the first 15 minutes when Oberstar and Vento had to return to the floor of the House. That left the group with lots of issues to discuss, but little consensus.
And this is one way we can have a little say over what's happening in our national parks and our boundary waters.
Okay.
Do you think, though, that you would be listened to if you were just a panel?
Discussion continued throughout the hour-long show, and although nothing seemed to be resolved, participants felt it was a good debate.
I think it went real well. There's a lot of interesting ideas that are brought out, and one of the things I really like about this forum is that they give you background information, and we are not here to solve the issue. And they've said at the beginning, you're not here to answer the problem. You are here to come up with questions based on the values. What does Minnesota value?
The wide-ranging discussion no doubt foreshadows the real mediation, which begins August 12th. In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
Both the tribe and Wichita have agreed to work with Mr. Torones towards resolving immediate issues concerning rail and bridge safety. The tribe and Wichita stand in unity on the overall objective concerning rail and safety over tribal lands.
put extensions on for you. It's just
Certainly an exciting day. Congratulations, David. Judge Sullivan.
But I will tell you what I understand and have always believed, and that is to become a good leader, one must first learn to be a good follower. And I want to assure the honorable judges of this court that when I get up here, I will know and I will appreciate who the rookie is. I haven't had a boss for over 25 years, but I have the suspicion that shortly after this room clears,
Residents of Duluth's Miller Hill area may soon have a whole new development project to come to terms with. A 2-acre parcel of land next to the former Opus development site has been approved for rezoning by the City Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission held a public hearing this morning and made a recommendation on the rezoning request for the property located at the intersection of Trinity Road and Central Entrance. The property owners, represented by Brian Doherty, requested that the property be zoned C5 commercial for purposes of marketing it for commercial use.
Miller Hill residents we spoke with all declined to appear on camera, but have multiple concerns about the area. Some say their biggest immediate concern is the proposed Hamlet Green housing development. But the city planner says the commission made its recommendation because the land is suited for business.
The only basis upon which the city, or any city for that matter, makes a zoning decision is determining what the highest and best use of that property is. It's not project specific.
The City Council is scheduled to hear the Commission's zoning recommendations on August 26th, but a final decision may not come for some time. In Duluth, Jason Rice, Channel 6 News.
I had 32 rose bushes starting from there up to here. They come in and they eat them right down to the ground.
Joe Seal is frustrated. He's been gardening here since he bought the place 43 years ago. 3 years ago, deer started eating everything.
You see the tops of those? See the tops of the berries?
Yeah.
See how it's clipped off?
Yeah.
That's deer.
But folks like Joe Seal may see a light at the end of a dark tunnel. At last night's meeting, the Minnetonka City Council decided by a 6-to-1 vote to continue the city's deer management program for 3 more years.
They approved continuation of our deer management program through 1999 with a goal of removing 200 to 250 deer per winter season in the next 3 winters.
The city's advisors figure by the year 2000, the number of deer in Minnetonka may be of manageable size again, and there won't be so many complaints about deer damage. Also in the meeting, the Minnetonka Council gave preliminary approval to an ordinance intended to discourage opponents of the program, these 3 of whom were prosecuted for interfering with it last winter.
One part strengthens the anti-interference ordinance that we already have in place, just making it easier for our prosecutors to prosecute cases if they do come up. The second is the feeding restrictions, and the third has to do with trespassing.
The feeding ordinance prohibits feeding deer between December 1st and March 31st, but provides ways for people to continue feeding birds.
Sure, we've been on all the rides here for the little kids and eating cotton candy and caramel apples. It's been fun. What's the best part? Watching the kids' face. They enjoy it.
As far as arrests go, we've seen quite a large increase in arrests from 93 to 94, about 200% increase, 94 to 95, about a 37% increase. And, most of that is largely due to some programs that we have here in Duluth, some proactive programs.
For years, the people out here, there's been one or two of them that have come in and requested power, and it just hasn't been feasible to extend the power lines out here.
It's good enough for now. Oh, there's light!
If they can work at a place that provides quality child care, that is an inducement to be employed there. By the same token, employers provide quality child care.
We are looking for anyone who may have observed that accident. Again, the Pontiac was downbound on 6th Avenue East.
This murder is a sad reminder that our community, like the rest of the world, is not as secure as it once was. Yet for us to live in fear would be another tragedy. Duluth is still one of the safest, most closely knit communities in the world. We are blessed with a diversity of people who care deeply about one another.
Young children usually don't have traffic safety on their mind when they're playing with their friends that they may not have seen all summer and are likely to dart out in traffic unexpectedly.
It's going to be worship. We're really hoping that it is asking God's help as we come together as a community to try to build bridges of understanding, to heal ourselves from this horrible thing that has happened.
It isn't popular to ask people to pay $4 more a year in taxes, but when they think about the payback to the community and the difference it's going to make for our children and future generations.
This is just not something, it's something that I think that every officer thinks about a lot, and the people don't think about it. And then all of a sudden, when you least expect it, when someplace that it shouldn't be, it happens.
We can't believe it because we're just a nice little peaceful, happy group of people. No, it is terrible, yes.
2 by 2 officers filed into the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church to pay tribute to Corporal Parquette. The Reverend was the first to speak to remind us that Parquette's tragic death is a reminder that violence is everywhere.
It is around us. It is in the world. It's not just in this country. Sometimes we complain because of all of the violence and the crime in our nation, but it's a worldwide thing. But it's not always recognized, and it is present with us. It is here in the sanctuary.
Richard Parquette would have been 58 years old on September 21st. He served as a law enforcement officer for 28 years. He worked as a Bayfield deputy for 17 and was recently promoted to corporal. His life was cut short when he was shot while responding to a routine call. His death has affected everyone.
That an attack on this man is an attack on every law enforcement officer in this state, and it is an attack on every citizen in this state. It is an attack on what we believe in, a rule of law, and he, Richard Parquette, has been the person who has paid that price for all of us.
At the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church in Cable, Wisconsin, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
But this is just the first step to find out, let the people dream a little bit, tell us what they want in their community, and then work with them to come up with a plan that's acceptable and a timeline.
This is Silver Bay's new tool to help end high-speed chases safely. They bought these a year ago and have only used them once. Chief Sando recommends these to other police departments.
I don't have to worry about shooting people. I don't have to worry about shooting vehicles. I don't have to worry about people or vehicles ramming into each other. I got him with flat tires.
The easy setup doesn't give the fleeing vehicle too many options.
Well, you see my squad there, you see a guardrail over here, you see a guardrail over here. So he isn't going anywhere, but he's got these little stop sticks ahead of him that he probably doesn't know what they are. and all they say is stop, stop, stop.
If the vehicle doesn't stop on its own, these stop sticks will make sure it does. Each stick has about 36 nails embedded in styrofoam, which will puncture the tires.
Then as your tire loops around, this part falls out. Now these little nails are hollow, and they let the air out, but they don't let the air out fast enough to where he would lose control.
This allows police officers to arrest the suspect without putting innocent people and themselves in danger. In Silver Bay, Molly Boyum, Channel 6 News. From Lincoln Park Elementary are helping out and cleaning up Lincoln Park. Last week, the park was destroyed. Shattered picnic tables, splintered boards strewn about and tossed into a nearby creek. A barbecue grill ripped off its foundation and thrown onto the roof of the park's shelter. So now, 7th and 8th graders from Lincoln School are trying to take back the park.
They're very excited right now, and I think they're responding very positively. We have a very good response after the vandalism last week. The kids were really not very pleased with that as a whole, and they really want to show their support.
The larger items damaged last week were cleaned up over the weekend by the city. Over 50 students helped the city out and gathered to pick up trash and improve the park's look.
Give us a better reputation, because we wouldn't do it as somebody around the neighborhood trying to give us a bad reputation.
The cleaning's kind of easy because everyone's been cleaning up good and there's like a lot of people.
The group says even something as simple as picking up trash at the park improves the look of the park and the community.
It is the natural resource of this area, and it shows that they have ownership of this area, and some of the things like the vandalism that happened recently is not part of this community.
In Duluth's Lincoln Park, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
I was just yesterday.
If a police officer picks a young person up and they haven't been drinking and
It doesn't matter your age. If there is something that's impacting you that you're concerned about, get together, go to talk to your mayor or your school board or to your principal or other decision makers in your communities. There's no magic age to when you can express your views.
We're not the ones who engaged the council.
The missing money was discovered after the department conducted a financial audit, something that hadn't been done in close to a decade. McLeod repaid the university, but has been vague as to where the money went. McLeod still has business here in Duluth as commissioner of the WCHA. The league decided earlier this week to do its own audit.
The budget of the WCHA is not substantial. And we just have not had problems with it. The audit that is being done now is not like it's been reported. It is not a financial probe. It is just
a reinstatement of the annual audit, and we thought that would be prudent, and that was on Bruce's recommendation to the executive committee.
The operating budget of the WCHA is $260,000, and officials say they have never had financial problems in the past. But they say they are reinstating the audits on a yearly basis, even though they went to an every other year format just last year.
On Monday evening, September 16th, a home on Highland Street near Proctor was burglarized. Included in the loss were over 300 compact discs. Their value alone was over $3,000. Compact discs are very popular with Northland citizens, but they're also very popular with area thieves. Thousands are stolen every year in car prowls and house burglaries. Police often recover stolen properties, but CDs seldom get back to their rightful owners. CDs don't have serial numbers, and very few people mark them. Crime Stoppers found that CDs can be marked on the label side of the disc with a good permanent marker pen. Don't mark the clear side of the disc because it will ruin it. Marking your discs will help reduce this type of crime. Call us if you know any burglars or thieves. We'll pay up to $1,000 in cash if you help us put them in jail. Our numbers are 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH. That's 723-3683.
It's a way to draw people into being active and motivating them. And it's a healing, too. The families that are involved that have experienced violence are doing it to get their message out and to help with their own grieving and coping.
All you need to participate is a buddy, the willingness to take charge of your health, and promise to undertake a threefold approach to detect breast cancer in its earliest and most treatable stage. Your buddy's task will be to remind you to follow through on your efforts to detect cancer. The first step is a breast self-exam conducted monthly. Step 2 is to seek a breast exam each year by a health professional. The third step is to undergo routine screening mammograms. This three-pronged effort is essential.
Mammography probably detects 85 to 90% of breast cancers. However, that still means that there may be 10 to 12% out there that are discovered by breast self-exam or by healthcare providers. So it's the combination of the three that's going to give us the best overall chances.
And you deserve the best. Please make a commitment today to participate in the Buddy Check 6 program. Your buddy can be a family member, friend, coworker, or a husband. Mine is Ann Carroll. Someone willing to remind you to conduct your self-breast exam, to undergo a yearly clinical breast exam, and to receive those routine mammograms. Your Buddy Check partnership can pay off in the best gift of all, life.
If you find a cancer at an early stage, you have a 90-some% cure rate, as opposed to if a cancer has been there a while and it has spread, it's only a 40% cure rate. So it really makes a huge difference.
Patients at this high-security sexual psychopathic personality treatment center are the worst in the state. When the facility was built last year, residents of Moose Lake were told patients would not have access to the public. But now some patients are allowed to work outside this high-security fencing, outside this high-security complex built to keep them locked in. Officials from the treatment center confirmed that 8 patients are allowed outside the secured perimeter fencing to do yard work. In fact, while we were here, 3 patients were in front of the building doing yard work with only 1 security officer watching nearby. This angers city council members, Moose Lake residents, and the mayor. Last Thursday at the city council meeting, they fought against this privilege given to some patients. They all say the state has violated an agreement with the city. They say one of the conditions for this facility coming to Moose Lake was that all patients were under tight security. Residents and city leaders say that condition is not being met and residents are being put at risk.
Yeah, I've got 3 girls and I'm gone a lot. My wife's here alone. I work construction. I'm also in the ambulance service. And in fact, we go over to the prison now and then to pick up patients. And it makes me real concerned for their safety.
We found only a few residents that agree with the patients working outside the high security fencing.
They're not going to try to escape. They know better. They're not crazy. They're no different than you or I. It's just that they have a problem that they cannot control.
Now, residents will be able to speak out again. This time, a representative from the state will listen and answer questions about the treatment center's policy. A special public meeting has been called for Tuesday night to discuss this heated issue. In Moose Lake, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
It's just fun to get your hands on rocks and think of things, what they might be.
What is your favorite?
Probably my real shell from the dinosaur age, except it's just in rock. It isn't really a fossil, it's the real shell.
We're just delighted to have a choir like this up here in Duluth that we feel is worthy of the energies and the time and the exposure that we want to give them here. And